So there's a question I get asked a lot whenever people want to know like writing advice or how to write stories better or worse or things like that. And one of the questions I get asked is my thoughts on fan fiction. Is it ever okay to write fan fiction? Is it a problem? Is fan fiction good, bad? What are my thoughts on it? And it would be incredibly hypocritical of me to say that fan fiction is necessarily bad because one of the first major stories I ever worked on is fundamentally a fan fiction called The Tale of Tomaki. Now, The Tale of Tomaki has a long history, and we'll talk about it, but what I want to say, first of all, to answer that question, and we'll answer it further as we go along, but I don't think fan fiction is a problem, but writing it has shown me a lot about who I am as a writer and what I want to be as a writer. I've noticed a lot of flaws and errors in writing The Tale of Tomaki, and those have helped improve my writing quality, and I hope you'll understand how. So, let's get into The Tale of Tomaki. What is it? The Tale of Tomaki was a story I started writing probably about halfway through college. I was still halfway through college, still very new to writing, but I wanted to write a superhero story. I'd always loved superheroes. I'd always loved the superhero ideal, like the idea of like someone fighting for truth, justice, defending the innocent. And I wanted to create a superhero that I could really get behind. The first superhero story I ever wrote was Stupendous Boy, but I was like in middle school at the time, so it didn't go anywhere. It was just sort of little misadventures. But I wanted to write an actual long arc hero story. And I ended up basing a character off of a Saiyan from Dragon Ball Z. In fact, I didn't just base it off of a Saiyan, it was a Saiyan in everything, including name, and the fact that Tomaki could go Super Saiyan. So my idea was that Tomaki, since all Saiyans have a vegetable pun name, I thought Tomaki, tomato, and whatever. So Tomaki was a Saiyan sent to Earth, or this universe's version of Earth, crash lands there, and gets adopted by this woman named Belle. Belle takes him in, she raises him, she takes good care of him, tries to, teach the violence and combat out of him. And Tomaki, as a young Saiyan boy, is just seeking competition, seeking power, seeking strength. And along the way, as he gets older, as he goes into middle and high school, as he gets to that age, there's a moment where people start to realize that there's this really powerful kid in Shan City, and now some people actually want to test themselves and their merits against this boy. And one guy, this guy who wants to develop new secret weapons for the military and for governments to purchase off of him, tries to test his stuff on Tomaki, and in the process, Belle, Tomaki's adoptive mother, dies protecting him. And through this, Tomaki actually activates his Super Saiyan for the first time. Now, actually, after activating Super Saiyan, Tomaki does beat the baddies, he does beat the bad guys, but he's now dealing with an existential crisis. See, he never treated Belle like a good kid should. He never treated her like a mother. He kind of always held his Super Saiyan pride over that and never treated her the way she should be. So now he feels incredible guilt that she died protecting him and he never gave her the love that she deserved for taking such good care of him. So he finds a martial arts master named Master Hayato to train him, and they go on a pilgrimage all around the world so that he can learn how to hone his Super Saiyan power, hone his Saiyan abilities, and actually be a hero worth a damn in Shan City. So he comes back to Shan City later. Now he's a little bit older, it's been 3 years, and now he's actually more of a seasoned fighter. And good thing too, because after the Golden Warrior incident, as it came to be called, now a lot of gangs and violent crime bosses and militia within and around the city have upped their own antes, using mutagens to create mutant warriors, using electronics and android power to create robots. Like, basically, it has become a huge power grab all around the city and inside the city as well for these violent, dangerous individuals to try to seize power, because the idea was kind of like the idea of what Batman does. Many people assume that when the Batman appeared, the villains upped their ante. Kind of the same thing. You have the Golden Warrior incident, now all the villains want to up their ante, and now Tomaki now has to fight all these problems. I broke the Tale of Tomaki down into 4 acts, like 4 different arcs, if you will. First was the Mamaragon arc, where he has to fight a gang leader named Mamaragon, who's a mutant who uses lightning powers. And it turned into this whole battle where Tomaki has to figure out his own limitations. Because one thing that I was really worried about was the Super Saiyan power is just so strong, how do I create a limiter? And what I came up with is the idea is Tomaki's actually afraid of his Super Saiyan power, because when he activates it, it awakens that Saiyan instinct in him that doesn't help him hold back. It makes him prideful, dangerous, unhinged to a certain extent. So he's actually afraid to use his Super Saiyan power, and he'll only use it in very specific circumstances. He's afraid to go all out even when he may need to. After the Mamaragon arc, came the Poachers arc. Basically, now some aliens have started getting involved. The Galactic Patrol, these alien poachers who specifically hunt Saiyans. And then another Saiyan shows up by the name of Daikon. Daikon shows up and actually challenges Tomaki, and it becomes a really big slog-out fight, which leads to the third arc, the Daikon arc, where he now has to fight and defeat Daikon, and he uses a technique that is very, very dangerous, but he has to be careful how he uses it. It's really big deal there. Finally, you had the fourth arc, which was the Boa Lock arc, where he actually fights this ancient demon monster called Boa Lock, who is the amalgamation of all these dangerous enemies rolled into one, and he's so powerful that even Super Saiyan isn't enough to beat him, so Tomaki has to figure out a way to defeat him. And it's really cool. There's a lot of intrigue. Like, Tomaki has a girlfriend named Victoria who he's struggling to understand his feelings for, because he doesn't understand romance, he doesn't understand love, but even the thought of Victoria being with another man just hurts him. Like, there's this whole subplot in the first arc of Victoria having an ex-boyfriend named Warren, and anytime he's around, Tomaki can't explain why, but he hates Warren. He wants to beat him up, even though Warren hasn't done anything wrong. And he doesn't understand why that is, and his master Hayato kind of has to explain that. It's jealousy. You love her. And he's like, come on, I don't get jealous. And so it turned into this fun little game of playing around with emotions. Now, some of you may be asking, okay, so is this Dragon Ball Z? Is this X-Men? You mentioned mutants. Like, what kind of universe is this? And therein lies the first problem with Tomaki. I never really had a set grounding for what the world was. This world has no grounding. Like, there are elements of mutants in it, Saiyans, aliens, demons. Heck, at one point I even wrote a sequel to Tomaki when I finished it, because I did finish the 4 arcs, and I wrote a new one where he meets the Justice League and fought Superman. Guys, Tomaki went all over the place. I had no set grounding for this character. What I really wanted was to play around with the idea of my Saiyan character Tomaki in different scenarios and how he would interact with them. And that was always kind of the goal of it, which I think is the beauty of fan fiction. Like, when, again, going back to that original question, is fan fiction bad? I don't think it's bad, because I think a good fan fiction writer can create unique scenarios to put characters in that they otherwise wouldn't. Now, some of you might argue, Raven, this isn't really a good fan fiction, is it? Because it's not using named characters from Dragon Ball, it's just your own version of a Saiyan story, like Goku's, but not Goku. And yes, you're technically right, but there's no question that I'm using elements from other creations, like the DC Universe, the Marvel Universe, and Dragon Ball Z, to create this story. Even if I'm not name-dropping anybody, I'm still, using ideas from other sources to create this story, and that definitely does fall within the fan fiction realm. I don't regret that I wrote Tomaki, but I do have problems with it. For example, some people pointed out that the Tale of Tomaki might have been better if I didn't use a Saiyan character, but just a different kind of hero, like created something else. And they're 100% right. I probably would have been more proud of Tomaki if I created a new kind of superhero, like my own original kind. Then you could get into the argument of, is there anything original anymore? And we could have that discussion. But let's face it, a Viltrumite from the Invincible comics and TV show is basically a Saiyan without the tail, let's be honest. But regardless of that point, I really did enjoy writing Tomaki. Don't get me wrong. I recognize that it's fan fiction. I recognize that it's not my best work, and I recognize that there was no solid grounding in it. But Tomaki has opened up a lot of doorways to creative and fun ideas. Like, literally just the other day, me and my brother were talking about how Tomaki interacts with the Justice League. And we were talking about, say that Tomaki never got with Victoria, his girlfriend. Who, and would there be any woman in the DC Universe that he might get with? And we both agreed he might resonate well with Diana or Wonder Woman. And we talked about why that would be. Because it's just a lot of fun to play with that. Now, of course, I'm not going to write that, because I've already written that Tomaki later does marry Victoria, and they have a kid together. And so it's not even this thing where I necessarily want that to happen, but it's something fun to play with. And what I did a lot with Tomaki was my friends created characters that they wanted to see interact with Tomaki. Like, you had Spirit, who is created by a friend of mine named the Burning Spirit. Hannah created a character that he interacted with. Lots of people created characters, and Tomaki interacted with these characters, and we built a whole story about Tomaki working with, working against. It was a lot of fun. Now, some people, this is kind of funny, a little bit of the inside lore of the Tale of Tomaki. Initially, the Saiyan that Tomaki fights was someone else's creation named Griff. And they wrote this character that I just did not like. I thought that Griff as a character was just a very annoying, very unlikable character. Even though he was a villain, he just came off as very hard to write. So when he officially left the project and just said, do what you want with Griff, I said, okay, I'm changing everything. I'm changing his name, I'm changing his attitude, I'm changing his personality, and I turned him into Daikon, which I think made him a much more entertaining, fun villain. And so I had a lot of fun creating this character, and Hannah definitely liked the character a lot more. To put it in perspective, Griff was kind of a womanizing character. He liked to flirt with girls that he interacted with. Daikon couldn't care less, you know, that kind of thing. It's been a lot of fun going back over the Tale of Tomaki and editing some things, fixing some of my old writing errors, and creating new characters and scenes and ideas. It has been a lot of fun revisiting this, and I've had whole new ideas of how far Tomaki could go. Like, to give you an idea of how far I've gone with my ideas for Tomaki, I see him in the future fighting Boalok again, but like in space. Like, we're talking like a battle on the level of Goku and Beerus in the Dragon Ball Gods movie. Like, me and Lark had this idea where Boalok knocks Tomaki into a gas giant, and Tomaki manages to channel the power of that gas giant and release it in such a way that it increases its power to a brown dwarf, which is like the smallest version of a star. To put it frankly, like I said, there's no grounding for the Tale of Tomaki. There's no realistic boundary that we couldn't cross. We've had so much fun playing with the character and what he can do. Like going Super Saiyan, then Super Saiyan 2, then could he go Ultra Instinct? How would he do that? Like, all these ideas. And I really do owe it to, like, the Dragon Ball Z, DC, and Marvel universes for helping to create these characters, but I would say that that's another aspect of fan fiction that I think can work when written well. And I want to specify written well, because a lot of people who write fan fiction, and the reason why fan fiction gets such a bad rep, is that it's usually written by young teens or tweens or young adults who want to see their characters, usually female characters, get with or assist or win the hearts of characters from whatever medium that they're writing in. So if I'm writing a Naruto fan fiction, my character will get with whatever Naruto character I want to get with myself. And so that in turn creates a very annoying kind of story, because that's where you get a lot of Mary Sue characters, you get a lot of very unentertaining stories, you get a lot of lore-breaking stuff where the lore just does not matter. You throw it out the window because, hey, your version of the events have to matter over the story, and I think that's where you get the bad rep that fanfiction does. What I did with the Tale of Tomaki was I took elements from different mediums that I liked and kind of created a smoothie of ideas, a blender of ideas to create a brand new thing. Now, does that mean that it's necessarily good? I suppose that's up to your interpretation. To me, I enjoyed it. And I think that's the number one thing that has to come out of any kind of story you write. You do have to enjoy what you write. Did I enjoy the Tale of Tomaki? 100%. It's a wonderful story that I really do love looking back on, adding to, building on, editing. It's something that I have a real passion for. I recognize that it could have been better. And over time, I have created new hero stories. Like I created the Mantis, I've created the Revenant King, I've created Nighthawk, I've created the Dragon Knight. I've created these new superheroes that are now more my creation. So I'm very pleased with that. But I always look back at the Tale of Tomaki and I say, this is kind of where it started for me in superhero writing. It taught me a lot of what to do right about superhero writing and what to do wrong. And if I were to give you any advice from the Tale of Tomaki, it would be this. My fundamental answer to the question of is fan fiction good or bad to write, my answer is it is good as long as it is written good. And by that I mean, don't just make it your preferred, oh, I want to see my character save the day in this medium. That's not going to win over any kind of audience. What you want to do is create a character that has been brought into or is existed within the medium. And I talked about this with the Burning Mist story sharing. Go back and watch that as well. That was a Naruto fan fiction if ever there was one. But create a story within this medium. Don't create a personal dream or ambition within this story, if that makes sense. And Tomaki, while definitely kind of a self-insert character, he definitely took on a life of his own. And I think that's the beauty of good character writing, when they take on kind of a life of their own, and you're not always sure where they'll end up going, but you're so fascinated and excited to see where they do end up. But anyway, guys, that's probably going to be where I end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed. The Tale of Tomaki is a story that I absolutely adore. Go check it out. I have been reading it in my reading streams. Give it a listen if you like. It's been a lot of fun. There's so many characters, so much to talk about, so much more than what I've talked about here, but that's what story sharing's for, basically giving you an early look. Anyway, guys, that's all I got time for. I will see you in my next video. Take care.